Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for having me today presenting and talking about smart, secure and sustainable shipping. And I would like to start with the fact that today's maritime operators are not just about the sale and trading and operating over the seas, but more about more sustainable shipping and navigating through the emission limits, all the time evolving regulations in the industry and looming security threats. These days, the latest sulfur caps like IMO 2020 sulfur cap that limits sulfur content up to 0.5% of sulfur in the fuels used by ships did significantly reduce sulfur oxide emissions. Together with the other regulations and the energy efficiency existing ship index and the carbon intensity indicator, all together does minimize the carbon imprint that makes us closer to the decarbonization goals, and also that challenge us at the same time to innovate greener and smarter ships, pushing maritime operators towards stricter emissions reductions. Meanwhile, rising threats at sea and illicit activities at the same time threaten our security. And the future of shipping is not just about moving goods and trade, it's about balance. Balance between the emissions regulations, security and safety measures that have to be done operationally, efficiently, doing it responsibly, sustainably, and also smartly. Therefore, smart and secure and sustainable shipping is not just a slogan, but a way forward. Today, I'll be presenting a smart maritime risk intelligence platform that was developed together with our Italian engineers and broadcasted to the maritime stakeholders. And it's a cutting-edge risk intelligence platform. It integrates state-of-art vessel tracking in the real time, together with the threat assessment, operational and threat risk management that keeps it all unified under a single platform. And unlike conventional platforms that mainly based on the manual static data and oversight, this one is showing all the incidents that are happening in the real life, vessel positioning, satellite data, and also advanced analytic. With features and also new features that were recently introduced to our clients, such as threat mapping, geofencing, and operational risk alerts, MARI enhances maritime domain awareness by providing proactive insights that are happening within the area of piracy, criminality, environmental hazards, also arms trafficking, law enforcement, migrants, militancy, and its sophisticated analysis, also latest development feature of MARI Care that I'll be talking on a later stage, helps fleet managers and operators to anticipate emerging risks and at the same time optimize the routing, ensure compliance with the latest maritime and also environmental standards. So briefly talking about the key features of our intelligence system, it does provide its client with the asset tracking integration, its real-time worldwide vessel and asset monitoring, together with the threat assessment and also risk analysis, voyage and route planning, in its own way optimizing the route and minimizing the risk exposure. Visual eye voyage monitoring, that's when we are talking about West African operations, when we have a lot of armed escorts, and it does help to see what's happening in the high-risk area within the actual real time. Global maritime security risk coverage. Geofencing, dynamic and static, that's a new feature when you can see the actual vessel visiting certain prohibited areas, and you can also see a time frame that varies up to 6 months, and you can easily do your KYC further on. Insurance, shipping and reporting zone layers, automatic voyage risk assessment, and weather forecasting tools that do actually help to adapt to certain weather related disruptions if there are any. So coming to the new feature that we have recently developed, we are living in the world when the maritime industry is under immense pressure to adopt emissions regulations, carbon trading schemes, efficiency standards are transforming from a compliance from a mere checkbox to a proper challenge that everyone has to face. For example, a single voyage to Europe can trigger significant carbon costs, costing you up to 170,000 euros for high emission vessels. That encompasses the purchase of emissions allowances under the EU ETS, potential penalties for non-compliance, and also increased fuel retrofit expenses to improve your efficiency. And in its turn, of course, carbon costs translate directly into the freight trade, squeezing profit margins, and it all comes to the end user expenses. MariCare empowers maritime operators with comprehensive carbon management tools to meet involving environmental standards and minimize the regulatory risks. This platform offers key features such as voyage emission calculations. So it does utilize real-time data, voyage parameters and vessel specifications. It's also forecasting ETS exposure, and it's based on a certain forecasting algorithm that leverages predictive analytics to estimate a vessel's potential carbon allowance cost. Regulatory and environmental compliance support, because it does give a very full and intense record of all the IMO regulations, EU directives, national environmental standards. At the same time, it does support you with the tailored reports and documentation. Estimated and verified modes, about which I'll talk on a later stage. Emissions reduction analysis. And historical data and trend analysis, together with the integrations and reporting. Now coming to the next slide, that I find quite interactive is how actually MariCare works and how does it calculate the emissions and forecast the ETS exposure. The system uses a so-called hybrid forecasting model and draws the vessel-specific input into two major ways of calculations. It does it by estimated mode and by the verified mode. So estimated mode usually used for the route planning and certain calculations done prior the vessel is going, for example, to be sent to its charter. It does have major aspects of the vessel technical specs, such as main engine output, fuel oil consumption, propulsion type, engine model, and so on. Voyage parameters, as in distance, speed, load factor, and others. Fuel type assumptions, and also forecast logic. When we are talking about the verified mode, it's more for the compliance and also for the auditors. It does use the back data for the actual bunker consumption data, part logs, and timestamps. And it actually can calculate the exact tank-to-wake CO2 emissions, ETS coverage ratios, and a payable allowance in tons. As an example, we took one of Ro-Ro cargoes, and we have calculated within its voyage from China to Antwerp, basis on the major inputs such as distance, speed, engine, and load. The result that we got within the tons that were of fuel burned, we also have calculated its ETS liability at current EUA prices. So in other words, it's one of the amazing tools that does help you to do your pre-calculation and see what you're going to face in terms of the carbon imprint and all other sorts of emission exposure. And all together, it's a seamless platform that combines fleet intelligence, risk data, emissions tracking, and compliance management together. At the same time, it gives you real-time insight threat identification, carbon forecasting, and actionable intelligence. Therefore, you can see within the system threats, see threats that they might happen, and before they happen, at the same time anticipate and manage carbon costs. Therefore, that helps us not just to manage our data and make our calculations exact, but shaping the future of sustainable shipping together. Thank you.